When I was a small child, I was really afraid of clowns. See, my mom was obsessed with clowns. She loved Emmett Kelly and all things circus. And so in our small 2-bedroom Air Force Base housing, she decided my sister and I should have a circus-themed room. So there were clowns all over the walls, clowns on the curtains, on the bedspread, and we even had this trash can that had a big giant clown face on it. And one night, and this is probably one of the earliest memories that I have. I was maybe 3 or 4. I had bad fever. I was going in and out of sleep and feeling super loopy. I had gotten out of bed and I looked at the trash can and that giant clown face was pulsing. So yeah, I was among the 53.5% of people who are deathly afraid of clowns. So I guess it was maybe exposure therapy that cured me of it. Because this one Halloween, I was a junior in high school, and my brother had been trick-or-treating as a clown, and I didn't know what I was going to do for the Halloween dance at my high school that night. So I just took my brother's costume, took his extra white makeup, put on that red wig, that big spongy red nose. I mean, I looked horrible, but I had a costume, and I got to the dance, and I felt so free. I had never in my teenage life felt no judgment, no categorizing. I could just be myself. And the amazing thing was because nobody knew who I was. So I could dance with all the boys I had crushes on. I could dance all the slow dances by myself. And as a clown, what I realized was I could be the most me possible. And so my obsession, like my mom's obsession, started. She used to joke with us. In 1968, I was about 2 years old, Clown College had been started. There had been a sort of a shortage of clowns, and Kenneth Feld decided to put together, or actually, I'm sorry, it was his father, Irving Feld, had put together an actual training camp for clowns because people like Emmett Kelly were getting a little bit old, so they needed to have more clowns. And my mom would joke all through my life that she was going to run away and go to clown college instead of being my mom. But once I started that obsession, I was a junior in high school when the Halloween dance was, and in my senior year I did a term paper on the history of clowning. And then all through college, I don't know if anybody remembers a trend called clown ministry. I was a clown for our church, and it basically meant I could do face painting at church carnivals. And one time, though, I did a whole entire mountainside retreat for University of Southern California students, and I didn't have to talk for the whole weekend. But that small obsession became a much larger one the minute in my second year at Villanova, I was getting a master's degree in theater. And I walked out of the theater office and I saw an audition notice for Clown College. And at that point, being a theater student, I knew that that was one of the most elite places that a theater student could go. There were only going to be, in the Clown College class of 1990, 39 people get to be in that Clown College class, and there were thousands of people who would audition. And they would audition at different places where the circus was. So I was determined. I was going to be part of that elite program, 10 weeks. It was 6 days a week. We would learn juggling, stilt walking, design, costumes, makeup, all of these things. And I thought, this is going to be fantastic. There was a 14-page application. I did the whole thing. I went to the audition up in Boston. I went to the audition in Philadelphia, and then just waited. And late July, the fat envelope came. And my mom and I were dancing like fools in the living room. We were so excited. And that was the beginning of this love affair with clowns. Clowns delight us. And at Clown College, we learned one of the very first things was to dig down deep and find your inner child so that you'd be able to show your outer clown. And so being in Clown College, we learned to defend this profession. It's an actual profession. And we would defend it against the naysayers with every pratfall and every pie in the face. This is an ancient tradition, clowning, 4,000 years. There was an Egyptian pharaoh who had watched some Nubian pygmies do a ceremonial dance, and that was the first time that we learned this idea of a clown. And the Egyptian pharaoh said it was a divine spirit to rejoice and delight the heart. And that's what clowns do. They teach us to laugh at ourselves. And I'm not going to discount the fact that in our modern time, we have this push of the evil trope, the evil clown as this trope. But really, we can thank Stephen King for that. However, in 1892, any opera fans out there? Pagliacci was written, and that also featured an evil clown, Canio, who was a clown in a theater troupe and decided to murder his wife and her townie lover. So, but those are one-dimensional types of clowns. And every profession has had to deal with one-dimensional portrayals. I am sure the dentists, any dentists among you, weren't so happy when Little Shop of Horrors came out. But nobody has one emotion. Nobody is just one type of thing, and we don't know people just from the outside. And that was the thing about clowning that really fascinated me, because clowns look at a whole person. And I never saw that so clearly as when I was a clowning teacher for 15 years at an all-girls boarding school. I taught clowning every single year, and every single year I would have 12 students come in. Some of them were shy, some of them were belligerent. They were like, I am not putting the clown makeup on, I am not getting up on that stage. And 12 weeks later, I had an amazing troupe of young women who were collaborative, who were creative, who actually were super confident then. And part of that was because, right, they had to learn how to be their truest selves. The clown wears the makeup, but it is not a mask. So the reality is, people talk about like, oh, do you have a sad clown face or do you have a happy clown face? But the face that you have is your face. And I don't know if you were watching me while I was putting my makeup on, but I kept doing this and this because I was checking to see where my muscles are. Because you are accentuating the muscles you have in your face. So I'm going to do something as a teacher I never say, but go ahead and pull out your phones. Serious. Pull out your phones, put them on selfie mode. And I want you to just try staring at your face a little bit. When you smile, think about what your eyebrows are doing and what your cheeks are doing. What your mouth, the corner of your mouth is doing. Okay? So we're going to smile. And now we're going to frown. And we're going to smile. And now we're going to look surprised. And in Clown College, they actually talk to us about how to use your face, but you can't just use your face. Because if you're in Madison Square Garden, there's some old lady up in the rafters who's half a mile away from you. So you have to use your whole entire body. So I'm not going to make you stand up because somebody's going to get hurt. But we'll use our sample clown here. And when you are happy, your whole body has to be happy. And when you're angry, your whole body is angry. When you're surprised, oh, your whole body is surprised. So they need to see that. But again, these exaggerations of the face, exaggerations of the body, clowns are amazing with their skits, which we call gags. They're always looking at the human condition, the foibles and flaws of humanity. So when the clown falls, we're not laughing at the clown. We're laughing because we know what it is to be clumsy. And so if we look at the clown then not even just as a mirror, right, of ourselves, it's a magnifier of ourselves. And the psychologists who study the fear of clowns talk about that possibly it's because of the uncanny valley phenomenon, where you're looking at something and it is kind of human, but not really. But I would contend that clowns are the most human we can be because they're looking at us as whole people. There's paradox in our lives every single day. And if you can laugh at all of that craziness, that's pretty amazing. But the clown is also able to look at sadness. I have a couple of examples. If we think about Charlie Chaplin, he was a tramp and he made us laugh. But if anybody's seen The Dictator, that's pretty shocking. And we think of Lucille Ball. In I Love Lucy, we're rolling off the couch laughing. But later on in her life, she did a film called Stone Pillow, where she was a very poignant homeless woman. And one of my favorites, I'm sure some people out there are your favorite, Robin Williams. Yeah, he was able to be Mrs. Doubtfire, but also the Fisher King. And so the comedian, the physical comedy, is an expression of the wholeness of our humanity. It's not just the happy clown, right? It is happy and we're sad. And this is pretty amazing, but in America, when we say clown, we're often using it to deride somebody. We talk about the clowns down in DC. The Senate is a circus. And I'll tell you, most professional clowns would rather not be associated with politicians. Politicians are the opposite of clowns. They put on a face that looks normal, and they are deceiving. But a clown puts on this mask to bring out an inner truth. And so what my charge to all of you is to think about what is your inner clown. Where is your inner child? Is it that funny purple shirt that everyone laughs at? You should wear it. Is it that hat that your wife says, don't wear that out in public? Do it. Is it when you see a playground and you are so excited to see that slide? Don't wait for the grandkids. Go down it. That's your outer clown. And the reality is when you find that outer clown, you're being the whole human that you are. Also, if you go to ShopRite, I know this has happened to you, push in the cart, down that condiment aisle, and the song you love comes on. Dance. Let that outer clown just go ahead and dance. I'll tell you, I've been so excited excited to be a high school teacher 30 years. You know why? I get to go to the prom every year. And I'm sure on Instagram now there are many hashtag Miss Patience such a cray-cray. But that's okay. Because way back when, in 1982, I found my outer clown. I had the opportunity to go to clown college and really cultivate that. But one of the things that I want to give to all of you is you don't need the big shoes. You don't need the rubber nose, although it's fun. This is where I get to have the turned up nose without having plastic surgery. You don't need all of that. You just need to dig down deep into yourself and not be afraid to be your whole self, to be the most you possible. I'm going to leave you with the words of that master psychologist, William Shakespeare. He knew clowns. He used clowns in all of his plays and not just the comedies. There's clowns in the tragedies too. And one of my favorites is Touchstone from As You Like It. Yes, let's hear it for Touchstone. And he says, "The fool doth think he's wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool."